The Old Man of the Mountain. Chapter 1. The GPS on the dashboard spun in a frantic circle, searching for a signal that simply wasn't there. Ryan hit the steering wheel with the palm of his hand. "Come on," he muttered, glancing at the clock. It was 4:15 p.m. The meeting in Seattle was tomorrow morning at 9, and he was currently sitting in a motionless electric car on a gravel road somewhere deep in the Cascades. Ryan was a man of efficiency. At 28, he was the youngest project manager at a top-tier tech firm. His life was a series of notifications, calendar invites, and deadlines. He didn't do getting lost. He stepped out of the car. The silence of the forest hit him like a physical wave. There was no hum of traffic, no buzzing of power lines, just the towering Douglas firs stretching endlessly toward the gray sky. It was beautiful, sure, but to Ryan, it was just an obstacle. He walked to the edge of the road, holding his phone up like a torch, praying for a single bar of service. Nothing. "Hello?" he shouted, his voice cracking slightly. The trees seemed to swallow the sound instantly. According to his last downloaded map, there was a small town called Pine Creek about 5 miles north. He sighed, grabbed his designer backpack, locked the car, and started walking. His Italian leather boots were definitely not made for gravel. After an hour of walking, the sun began to dip behind the mountains, casting long, eerie shadows across the path. Just as panic began to tighten his chest, he saw it, a flicker of light. It wasn't a town, it was a solitary cabin set back from the road, with smoke curling lazily from a stone chimney. A wooden sign hung crookedly on the gate, "Fixer of Things." Ryan hesitated. It looked like the start of a horror movie his friends would watch on Halloween. But the cold was setting in, and his phone was now a useless brick. He pushed the gate open. It groaned in protest. He knocked on the heavy oak door. Thud, thud, thud. Moments later, the door creaked open. Standing there was a man who looked as rugged as the landscape itself. He had a thick white beard, eyes like polished flint, and he was holding a very small, very delicate porcelain teacup. "You're loud," the old man said, his voice gravelly but calm. "You scared the birds." I'm sorry," Ryan stammered, shivering. "My car died. I'm lost. I just need to use a phone." The old man took a sip of his tea, studying Ryan from head to toe, the expensive jacket, the frantic energy, the terror of being disconnected. "I don't have a phone," the old man said simply, "but I have heat and I have tea. Come in before you let all the warmth out." Ryan stepped inside. The cabin was filled with clocks, hundreds of them. Grandfather clocks, cuckoo clocks, pocket watches, and mantle clocks. But strangely, instead of a deafening cacophony of ticking, the room was completely silent. None of the clocks were moving. Chapter 2. Ryan sat on a worn leather armchair close to the fire, clutching a ceramic mug that smelled of pine needles and peppermint. The warmth was returning to his fingers, but his mind was still racing down the highway at 70 miles per hour. He looked around the room again. It was unnerving. The craftsmanship of the clocks was exquisite. Mahogany casings, brass pendulums, delicate hand-painted faces, but their stillness felt wrong. It was like walking into a room full of people holding their breath. "So, Ryan," started, the silence becoming too heavy for him to bear, "you fix things. That's what the sign said." The old man was standing at a workbench in the corner, carefully polishing a small gear with a microfiber cloth. He didn't look up. "I do." "But your clocks," Ryan gestured vaguely around the room, "none of them work. Do you need help with them? I'm not a mechanic, but I'm good with systems. Maybe I could take a look at one while I wait for the storm to pass." The old man finally looked up. A small, amused smile played on his lips. "They aren't broken, son. They are stopped." "Is there a difference?" Ryan asked, checking his smartwatch out of habit. It was still dead. "A broken clock cannot tell time," the old man said, walking over and sitting opposite Ryan. "A stopped clock chooses not to." "Okay, right. Well, is there a neighbor nearby? Someone with a landline? I really need to be in Seattle by morning. My entire career is riding on this presentation." "Listen," the old man leaned forward. "I am listening," Ryan said, frustration leaking into his voice. "I'm listening to you tell me about voluntary clocks, but I need a phone." "No," the man said softly. "Listen to the room." Ryan sighed and slumped back in the chair. He waited. He heard the crackle of the dry wood in the fireplace. He heard the wind howling outside, rattling the window panes. He heard the settling groans of the timber cabin. And then he heard it. Tick. It was faint, a solitary sound from the far corner of the room. Tick. Then another from the mantelpiece. Talk. "One of them is working?" Ryan whispered, sitting up straighter. "They only work when the noise stops," the old man said. "You brought a lot of noise in here with you. Loud thoughts, loud worries, loud boots." He pointed to the clocks. "They are shy. They don't like to compete." Ryan stared at the man. He was clearly crazy, a hermit living in the woods who thought his clocks were shy. But the wind outside was screaming now, a full-blown mountain squall. There was no way Ryan could walk 5 miles in that. He was trapped. "I'm Silas," the old man said, extending a calloused hand. "Ryan," he replied, shaking it. "Well, Ryan," Silas stood up, "since you aren't going anywhere tonight, you might as well make yourself useful. If you want to fix your schedule, you first have to learn how to fix a gear. Come here." He motioned to the workbench. Spread across the table were the guts of an intricate pocket watch, tiny springs, screws the size of dust motes, and fragile wheels. "Put it back together," Silas commanded gently. "I don't know how," Ryan protested. "You don't need to know how." Silas placed a pair of tweezers in Ryan's hand. "You just need to be still enough to see where the pieces want to go." Ryan looked down at the mess of metal parts. It looked impossible, but outside, the snow had started to fall, sealing the cabin off from the rest of the world. Chapter 3. For the first 20 minutes, Ryan accomplished nothing but frustration. The tweezers felt like clumsy claws in his hands. Every time he tried to slot a tiny brass wheel into its pivot, his hand would tremble, the wheel would slip, and he would let out a sharp breath of annoyance. "It's impossible," Ryan groaned, dropping the tweezers. "I need a magnifying glass. I need proper tools. I need a manual." Silas was sitting by the fire, whittling a piece of cedar. He didn't look up. "You have tools. You have eyes. The manual is inside the machine." "That doesn't make any sense," Ryan snapped. He stood up and paced the small room. "Look, I know you're trying to be all Zen master here, but I manage million-dollar projects. I optimize workflows. I don't sit around playing with toys while my career implodes." Silas stopped whittling. He looked at Ryan, his gaze piercing. "And how does that feel, your optimized life?" Ryan opened his mouth to retort, but stopped. How did it feel? It felt like a tightening in his chest that never went away. It felt like sleeping with his phone under his pillow. It felt like he was constantly running but never arriving. "It feels effective," Ryan said weakly. "It looks exhausted," Silas countered. "Sit down.
Try again, but this time, stop trying to finish. Just be. Ryan sat back down. He looked at the pocket watch. It was a mess of potential energy waiting for structure. He took a deep breath, holding it until his lungs burned, and let it out slowly. He closed his eyes for a moment, visualizing the meeting in Seattle, the PowerPoint slides, the boardroom table, and then he mentally swept them off the table. Just the gear, he told himself. He picked up the tweezers. This time, he didn't look at the whole watch. He focused on a single tiny spring. He watched the way the light caught the curve of the metal. He slowed his breathing. His hand steadied. With a movement so slow it was almost imperceptible, he lowered the spring into place. It clicked, a tiny, satisfying sound. Next, he picked up the escapement wheel. He held his breath, found the groove, and released it. Click. Ryan didn't cheer. He didn't check the time. He simply reached for the next piece. He entered a flow state, that rare zone where time seems to dissolve. He wasn't Ryan the project manager. He was just a pair of hands and a mind working in unison. He didn't notice that the wind outside had died down. He didn't notice that Silas had poured him more tea. He only noticed when he placed the final casing on the back of the watch and wound the crown. Tick, 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 tick. The watch came alive in his hands. It was a heartbeat, strong and steady. Ryan looked up, a wide, genuine smile breaking across his face. "I did it!" Silas nodded, gesturing to the room around them. "You did more than that." Ryan looked around the room. The silence was gone. The room was filled with a gentle, rhythmic symphony. The grandfather clock by the door was swinging its pendulum. The mantel clock was humming. The cuckoo clock was ticking. Every single clock in the room was moving in perfect time. "They aren't shy anymore," Silas said softly, "because you finally quieted down enough to join them." Ryan looked at the watch in his hand. It was 3 a.m. He had been working for hours, yet he felt more rested than he had in years. "So," Ryan whispered, "what happens now?"
Chapter 4. Ryan woke with a start, expecting the harsh blare of his smartphone alarm. Instead, he was greeted by the rhythmic, multi-layered percussion of 300 clocks. Sunlight streamed through the cabin's dusty windows, illuminating dancing motes of dust. The storm had passed, leaving the world outside blindingly white and still. Ryan sat up on the cot Silas had prepared for him. He checked his wrist. No smartwatch. He had taken it off the night before to work on the gears. He looked at the wall. It was 8 a.m. "The meeting," Ryan whispered, but the panic didn't come. The knot in his chest was gone. In its place was a strange, unfamiliar calmness. He had missed the start of the drive. He would definitely miss the presentation. By all accounts, his career was currently burning to the ground. But the world kept ticking. "Coffee's hot," Silas called from the small kitchen. Ryan stood up and walked over. "I missed it. The meeting starts in an hour. Even if the car flies, I won't make it to Seattle." Silas handed him a mug. "Then there is no need to rush, is there?" Ryan laughed, a dry, incredulous sound. "I suppose not. I'm fired anyway." "Maybe," Silas shrugged. "Or maybe you just became unavailable." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the silver pocket watch Ryan had fixed the night before. He pressed it into Ryan's hand. "Take it." "I can't take this. This is antique. It's valuable." "It was scrap metal yesterday. It only has value because you put your time into it. That makes it yours." Ryan ran his thumb over the smooth silver casing. It felt heavy, substantial.
real. "You have a choice now, Ryan," Silas continued, opening the front door. The crisp, cold air rushed in. The crisp, cold air rushed in. "You can go back to that car and try to race time, try to catch up to everything you think you lost. Or you can walk back slowly, look at the trees, and understand that the mountain doesn't care about your quarterly reports." Ryan looked at the old man, then down at the watch. "Thank you, Silas, for the tea, and for the lesson." "Go on." Silas nodded toward the gate. "The world is noisy. Don't let it drown you out again." Ryan grabbed his backpack and stepped out into the snow. He didn't run. He walked. The hike back to the car took longer than the hike in. Ryan stopped to look at a hawk circling overhead. He touched the rough bark of a cedar tree. He breathed in the air that tasted of ice and pine resin. When he finally saw his sleek black electric car parked on the gravel road, it looked like a spaceship from a different planet. It looked alien. He unlocked it. As soon as he sat in the driver's seat, the car's systems hummed to life. The heater blasted, the dashboard lit up. And then his phone connected. Ping, ping, buzz, ring. The noise was instantaneous and aggressive. Emails, texts, voicemails, a flood of digital demands screaming for his attention. He stared at the screen. 57 missed calls. He felt his heart rate spike, the old anxiety clawing at his throat. He reached for the phone to start apologizing, to start begging for his job back. But then he felt the heavy weight of the silver watch in his pocket. He pulled it out. Tick, tick, tick. He looked at the phone. He looked at the watch. Ryan took a deep breath, picked up the phone, and held his finger over the power button.
Chapter 5. Ryan held the button down. 3 seconds. 5 seconds. The screen flickered and went black. The barrage of notifications ceased. The digital screaming stopped. He didn't throw the phone out the window. He simply placed it face down on the passenger seat, next to his leather bag. Then he put the car in drive. The drive back to Seattle was different. Ryan didn't speed. He didn't obsess over the ETA on the dashboard. He watched the way the snow melted off the pine branches. He noticed the color of the sky shifting from gray to a piercing, hopeful blue. When he finally walked into the glass-walled lobby of his office building, it was 2 p.m. He was 5 hours late. He hadn't called. He hadn't emailed. As he stepped off the elevator, the office was buzzing. His assistant, Sarah, looked up, her face pale. "Ryan, oh my God, where have you been?" The VP was furious. He waited for 20 minutes and then stormed out. "Everyone thinks you quit. Everyone thinks you had a breakdown." Ryan walked past her desk, unbuttoning his coat. He felt strangely light. "I didn't quit, Sarah. I just got stuck." He walked straight to the VP's office and knocked. He didn't wait for an answer before entering. His boss, a man who lived his life by quarter-hour intervals, looked up from his desk, his face turning a shade of angry red. "You have some nerve walking in here. Do you have any idea how much time you wasted?" "I do," Ryan said calmly, sitting in the chair opposite him. He didn't offer a frantic excuse about the car or the signal. He didn't apologize profusely. He sat with the same stillness Silas had shown him. "I missed the meeting," Ryan continued, his voice steady, "and I will reschedule it. But the project is solid, the data is good, and the world is still turning." The boss stared at him. He was used to Ryan the frantic people pleaser, Ryan the stressed achiever. He didn't know how to handle this version of Ryan, the one who wasn't vibrating with anxiety. The confidence in Ryan's voice was disarming. "Fine," the boss grunted, the anger deflating slightly. "Reschedule it, but don't let it happen again." "I won't," Ryan said, and he meant it.
but not in the way his boss thought. Months passed. Ryan didn't leave the tech industry. He didn't move to a cabin in the woods, but he did change. He stopped answering emails after 6 p.m. He stopped wearing the smartwatch that buzzed every time someone liked a post. He started taking his lunch breaks in the park, leaving his phone in his desk drawer. His productivity didn't drop, it skyrocketed, because he wasn't fractured into 1,000 digital pieces anymore. He was whole. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, amidst the chaos of a product launch, a young intern ran up to Ryan's desk, looking panicked. "Ryan, the server is lagging, the clients are emailing, and we only have 10 minutes to push the update. What do we do?" Ryan looked away from his screen. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old silver pocket watch. He felt the weight of it, the history of it. He watched the second hand sweep smoothly around the face. Tick, tick, tick. He looked up at the intern with a smile. "First," Ryan said softly, "we take a breath. Then we fix the gear."